G'day, fools. Scott Phillips here, the Motley Fool's Chief Investment Officer in Australia. And welcome to the series that I know I say it every week. I'm still pretty sure it's our favourite series we do here on our YouTube channel. We love stocks. We love stock picking. We love the stocks of the week and the stocks in focus. We know you do too, and we really appreciate that. But we're kind of investing nerds at heart. And so really what this series is about is us getting a chance to talk about the stuff that we like, but also maybe even more importantly, the stuff that we think you need. It's the old teach a man to fish versus give a man to fish. We're happy to give you fish. That's what our services, at least in part, are based on. We'd rather teach you how to fish as well, though. And so we do stock of the week, and we do our favorite investing books, just as in our services, we give you recommendations, but we also try and teach you how to invest, how to think about the markets, think about companies, all that stuff. And so this is the YouTube edition, the YouTube version of that bit where we hope we're bringing you some books that you like. We're certainly bringing you books that we like, and we're bringing you stuff that we think you'll benefit from. And so that's the basis of this series. That's why we do our favorite investing books. And who better to bring you this week's book than my colleague and Motley Fool analyst extraordinaire, Ed Vesely. G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Scott. How are you going?
Mate, I'm exceptionally well, and I'm pretty pleased today because this is one of the books that I won't talk too much about it up front. I'll let you do it. One of the books that I think every investor should read. It is the Essays of, Warren Buffett. We talk about him all the time for a very, very good reason. He is the world's best investor. He deserves that mantle, and he's also a very, very good communicator. So why would you not read the Essays of Warren Buffett? But I will say, mate, I reckon it's about the least attractive title that Lawrence Cunningham could have come up with. Because you think Warren Buffett, great. Essays, oh man, really? Didn't I leave those behind in high school? So I don't love the title, but I do love the content. Tell us, mate, firstly, what's in the book. And then give our listeners, our viewers a sense of why they should read the book and what they might get out of it.
Yeah, well, starting of course, with the title, I suppose the readers to be in the know, so to speak, would know that it's going to be a pretty good read.
True.
Look, no, it's a wonderful book. I've read a number of the Warren Buffett letters, Berkshire Hathaway letters to shareholders over the years. I haven't actually read the last couple, funnily enough. So this has actually been a nice catalyst for me. This book that I'm talking about today is the 5th edition, so it's published up to 2019, and I do sincerely hope there's many, many more to come. So we'll have to see how long he stays in the job, I guess. But the book is effectively a compilation of the most, I guess you could say, the most insightful parts of his letters that he's written to shareholders over the years. And these letters go back to the 1970s. So they're thoughts from Warren Buffett himself. There's a few there from Charlie Munger as well. There's also the 2015 Charlie Munger letter just commenting on the 50 years that they've been running the company. I think it was 1965. So it's that was actually, I do remember reading that back in 2015, but it's been published again in the book. But the important difference between the book and reading the letters directly is that there's an order placed on the topics and the content. So in terms of answering the question, is there really any advantage in reading this book over, say, just reading the letters off the website? There definitely is. Yeah. Also find, too, that unless you go and print everything out, I think I like to sometimes hold the hard copy of the book itself. It makes it much easier to read and just sit back and relax. I read this book for the first time, I've got to say. I think it was a really entertaining and enjoyable book. It's in plain English, and that's because of Warren Buffett's communication. There is a foreword by the author himself, that's Lawrence Cunningham, who says, look, I've outlaid the topics in this order. So what he does is he's defined Buffett's, what he calls the owner-related business principles. So there's a number of those, and each one is done in accordance with a chapter, and then he references each segment, I guess, from whichever letter it's come from. So, for example, he would start off by talking about governance, but then he goes into investing, which is the next topic. Common stocks, it goes in acquisitions, accounting, taxation, and so on. And so if you're just looking for a specific topic, you could do a lot worse than just going straight to the investing section of this book and just reading all of the thoughts by Warren Buffett over the years that he's parlayed into letters at his shareholder, for his shareholders. So it's a wonderful read. It's just something I would come back to. I've actually made lots of notes throughout the book, and even though there are a lot of old cliched, they're cliched quotes because so many people quote Warren Buffett on such a regular basis anyway. It would be easy to think, we know all about that. I'll just go on to, there's a lot of other good a lot of other good authors out there and people to follow on the internet and around the world and so on. But what this book does is it really does bring you back to some level of grounding, especially in light of the volatility that we've had in the markets in the last 2 or 3 months. It's actually very reassuring to know that he would actually, this is Warren, he would actually come back and say, yeah, we really do take the long-term view, because he articulates exactly why he would take that long-term view, because we're investing in businesses. I know that's been mentioned so many times, as quoted from Warren Buffett and mentioned in the media and elsewhere, but it really does make a lot of sense that if you are going to focus on businesses and their economic performances over years, and especially the earnings that you can expect to achieve from good businesses that are growing over the years, then the share price between now and next month is really not going to matter at all. And I think that really is, for me, I mean, we do worry about share prices because we're looking for the next good idea ourselves. But in terms of the recommendations we've already made, and this is what I mentioned to our members as well, is that, look, it doesn't really matter if that share price is up 10% or down 10% from the time of making your first purchase. You've really got to hold on. And so reading this particular book is all about just coming back to those. I think those are such common sense investing principles. Some of the best discussions, I just want to mention a few. There's so much in there, but he goes on and talks about adjusted earnings versus the GAAP statutory accounting earnings. Okay, so the statutory earnings are exactly what the numbers are and were, but Warren Buffett would talk about the adjusted earnings and say, well, sometimes, the statutory earnings don't give you a real sense of exactly how the underlying business is performing. So that was an interesting part of the book, that I got out of that. He talks about the differences between accounting goodwill and economic goodwill. That can actually sound extremely dry until you understand that accounting goodwill is just the depreciation or amortization of that over a number of years. But the economic goodwill, this is when it's not something you can really put into numbers. It's actually that special something that a company might have. It might be a brand or a patent. I mean, Coca-Cola is a great example, or American Express in the States, and you've got that now with Google and other companies as well that have these fantastic brands which seem to just relentlessly bring in the revenue for these companies at high margins and at the same time keeping competitors at bay. So that's economic goodwill. And of course, he'll have his quotes on he'll talk about intrinsic values, for example, and he's been quoted a lot there that you can't be too precise with intrinsic values. There's so many variables. And I think when it comes to valuing a company, you just got to remember that we're talking about here a range of potential ideas. You might take a midpoint, for example, but valuation is only it's based on objective data, but it's going to be a subjective output when you look at that. So I think just on those 3 topics alone, I think I get a lot of comfort from the fact that there is no necessarily correct way to evaluate a company other than taking the longer term view, taking looking at the progress and looking at some of the fundamentals of the business rather than worrying about what it might be worth today or next month or in 6 months' time. So, look, I could go on. It's just a book that I would recommend that anyone reads. It's very enjoyable. It's very easy to read and is, I think, available in most bookshops and certainly online. So I can't recommend it enough.
Beautiful, mate. You've done a lovely job. I'll add my 2 cents worth just very quickly. It is one of the 2 books I reckon everybody should have to read before they invest a single dollar. That's how good the book is, as you've already highlighted. Yeah. A fantastic read. Buffett does a really nice job. He writes his shareholder. When you think of shareholder letters, you think this kind of the guff from a CEO of a company trying to impress you. Buffett takes the view, and I think through, as you say, mate, 50 odd years of these letters has proven that he's taken the view that he's writing as if he was writing to his sisters. Just saying, look, you're not in business, you're not an professional investor. I'm going to tell you what I think you need to know. And he also takes the view that he says when he writes these letters, he writes and shares the information that he would want if we were in charge and he was the shareholder. In other words, if our roles were reversed, what information would he want to hear? And you combine those 2 together of great investing, obviously, a really easy to read tone, and in a way that's genuinely trying to educate, not trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, not trying to sell the shares in his company, just saying, hey, here's some stuff I think it's worth you knowing. And that's his role as a teacher is overlooked because of his investing. Success has been phenomenally great. But as you say, really enjoyable, really easy to read. If you're listening, thinking shareholder letter, goodwill amortization, accounting, Warren Buffett, it all sounds too hard, right? Trust us, this is a really, really easy to read book. And by organizing by topic, mate, I completely agree with you. I've never read the shareholder letters year by year from the start, but I've read that particular book that you're mentioning, I want to say 3 or 4 times, and I'm probably overdue for another read for exactly the reasons you've highlighted. So The Essays of Warren Buffett by Lawrence Cunningham. He's the editor and kind of the compiler, but it's almost all Buffett's words otherwise, with a bit of Charlie Munger thrown in as well. A really, really great read. Ed, thank you for reading the book. Thank you for sharing the book with our viewers. It's inspired me to go and have another read of it. It's behind me on the shelf, so I'll grab it off and have another read in the next week or two. Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with us. Fools, thank you for watching. We hope you're enjoying this series. We certainly love bringing it to you. Lots of fun, a bit of a passion thing for us, but we hope we're actually imparting some value, and we hope we're giving you some great book recommendations. I will put the link to the book in the blurb below the video, so go down there if you want to just quickly click on the link and grab the book. Otherwise, as I said, you grab it from a bookshop. You probably got it somewhere in a library if you want to do that as well. So make sure you do. Please, seriously, do yourself a favor. This is one of, as I said, only 2 books I would say every investor almost must read. Don't have to, but I would recommend it very, very, very highly before you either start investing or before you invest another dollar, because it really can help you improve your investing meaningfully and change the way you think about companies, shares, the markets, all that kind of great stuff. Ed, thanks again, mate, and thanks for watching. On behalf of Ed, myself, and the whole Motley Fool team, until next time, Fool on.